two airheads and a boxer. Can these two airheads turn this boxer into this race bike? Episode 5, Removing the Heads.
All right, welcome everybody to episode 5. I believe we're on number 5 of two airheads and a boxer.
Manny Pacquiao wasn't available today. He's still serving as a parliament in the Philippines, so we've got this.
It's Pacquiao, by the way.
Pacquiao.
Who knows Pacquiao? It's Pacquiao.
Sorry, Pacquiao. I apologize.
That's what I got to deal with. So, two airheads and a boxer, episode 5. Today we're going to remove the cylinders.
Yes.
So we're going to take off both cylinders of each side, and today I'm going to be doing the wrenching. I know you've seen a lot of the other videos where Charles has been doing most of the wrenching and I've been doing the filming, so I don't want people, making a bunch of comments of, oh, that guy doesn't do anything but sit around and film. So this time I'm going to be doing the wrenching. Of course, as I've said before, I'm kind of the novice, so Charles will be walking me through it. We've kind of done some dry runs, so I kind of have a general idea of what we're going to be doing. But today we're going to be taking off the cylinder heads. Obviously they're called air heads for a reason, because they're not water cooled or oil cooled, right? They're air cooled. So these big old cylinders that stick way out here are what cool down the bike by the air flowing over top of it. So
I do have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Who's manning the beeping button, because you're going to be doing a lot of swearing in this.
Probably, that's all right. We don't do edits around here. We don't do beeps. If people want to hear cuss words, it's not for kids.
Okay.
So what is on the inside of these that we can expect once we get them apart? Can I give a quick little tutorial of what we're going to be doing here with these cylinders?
Well, once we get the valve covers off, we're going to see the lifters and the rocker arms, the rocker arms, and then the lifters underneath those. We're going to pull those off. We've got to keep those separate and in order, so that when we go to put them back on, everything goes back in the right place. Once we get those off, we're going to undo a couple more bolts. We'll actually be able to pull the cylinder head off, and we'll see the piston. We'll see the inside of the valves, get a look at how everything looks in there. Seeing as how this bike has been stored without the exhaust on it, because we haven't seen it with the exhaust on, may expect to find some gunk, detritus, other possibly even spiders living in there.
Yeah.
So once we get past the cylinder heads, we don't know what we're going to find,
Right.
But it's going to be interesting. We're going to move forward and figure out what if anything needs to be replaced, rebuilt, or just been cleaned up and put back together.
All right, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a mystery, so we're kind of excited. We're going to take it apart and see what it looks like on the inside. So come join us for episode 5, two airheads and a boxer. We're going to remove these cylinders, and we'll see if I can turn a wrench with the best of them.
Mechanics Log, episode 5, Into the Unknown.
All right, so here we are. So we're ready to remove the cylinder. It's always important to make sure you put your oil catcher, drain, what do they call these?
Drain pan?
Drain pan, there you go, whatever, see? Drain pan underneath, because there's obviously going to be some oil in here most likely when you remove these. So you want to make sure that you got your drain pan underneath your cylinders before you do that. And the first thing you got to do before you can get the cylinders off is you got to remove the carburetors. We've pre-loosened these. Actually, they just kind of pulled right off when we got the bike. But it's just the little metal clamps. You just unloosen those, and then they come right off. Throttle cable is still connected to it. So we're going to take them off of both sides, the clamps, at some point down the road. So to take this off, the first thing you got to do, there's an outside capture nut here. It's simply a 10 millimeter socket. So it's one little nut down here.
13 millimeter.
13 millimeter, yeah. All right, let me get over here. 13 millimeter. See, we'll figure it out. There you go, 13 millimeter. Take that bad boy off. And then there's two tiny little nuts holding it on here. So there's one here on this side, and there's one here on this side. These are 10 millimeter bolts, nuts. So you're just gonna loosen those. And once you got those 3 bolts off, the head should just come right off.
That's the valve cover.
Valve cover.
You want it to come off evenly. So you're coming off this end first. You want to pull, maybe give it a little tap with the rubber mallet.
Where we put it?
Right behind you.
Just right on. There we go. And all right, there's the valve cover. Tell everybody what we're looking at here.
Well, touch something and I'll tell you what it is. Those are your rocker arms. That's your intake rocker arm. And now go below that. There's a rod coming out. Nope, on this side, right there. That's your push rod. That runs directly back to the cam follower. And then the springs are your valve springs. Yep, right there, and on the front side too. So the next thing you're going to want to do is remove those 4 bolts right there. Yep, those. Nope. That one,
2,
that
3,
one, that one, and that one.
Right. And these are 13 again.
I do believe. It may be 15. And 15's on the other ratchet.
Got those 4 bolts removed.
Now, when you pull those off, you just want to pull them straight up. Pull one at a time. You want to pull it straight off. You want to set it down, and so you can remember which one's the front and which one's the rear. All right, that exposes our push rods. These are our push rods right here. You can pull them right out. This isn't like an overhead cam Japanese or modern bike, actually. This is very, very similar in technology to a Harley Davidson. So, next you pull that spark plug out. It's already finger tight. And then there's a 15 millimeter. Yep, right up in there, and there's a matching one on the bottom. And now, you give it a gentle tap with the hammer. Actually, you may be able to pull it right off. There it is. There's the cylinder head off. Remember what I was saying when you don't know what we're going to find inside there? Looks like some water's gotten in there. Solidified, a little bit of oxidation. I don't think that piston's going to be salvageable. That actually may be from some detonation. We'll get the piston out and take a better look at it. I'm going to go and pull that head gasket off. So that's the piston. Let's take a look at the underside of that head. Let me see what the valves look like. You pick up the cylinder head. Yeah, it looks more like oxidation than anything else. Looks like some water got in there. Maybe a valve was left open, and some water got in there and it oxidized. We'll get these cleaned up. Should be able to salvage the cylinder heads. Probably going to replace the pistons. If nothing else, we're going to go to some higher compression R90S spec pistons. And depending on the condition of the cylinders, we may go with a next size overbore.
All right. Now,
If you want to, you can go ahead and pull the cylinder out.
is it bolted in?
Nope. not knock the bike over.
Trying.
Getting hung up on the, actually, are we hung up on, is the piston free in that? Tap the piston with the wooden end of that. All right, I see some movement, so it looks like the piston is free in there. Give it another tug. Push it back in. I'm gonna pause.
All right, so after that little break, what we figured out is this was stuck in there basically after all the years of sitting. So we coated it with good old WD-40 like always, whacked it a couple more times with a hammer, and it appears to have come free.
Getting near the end of the travel of the piston, so what you're gonna wanna do is tap it lightly with the hammer as you pull out. No, tap the wooden end of the hammer, I'm sorry, the piston. Sorry.
Okay. See? Novice. Is that light enough? Okay.
Yep. Okay, try pulling it off again. You pull, I'll hit the piston. That bolt won't help you.
Into the unknown.
Yep, we have two options.
Try it again with some more WD-40. All right, so after a little bit of time of finagling, using the rubber mallet, a little bit of cussing, a little bit of swearing, we were able to free this loose from the piston, and now it just comes right off. The 3 stages. If you want to give a comment about how that looks, Charles, or what you think
I got it.
we're doing, how it's coming.
All right, looking at these cylinders, getting them out in the light. Cylinders actually don't look half bad. Looks like, if I had to guess, I'd say this thing was probably rebuilt mileage-wise not too long ago, but then it has sat for a while, so there's definitely some wear on it. But the cylinders look like they're in pretty good situation, pretty good shape. We should be able to just do a standard overbore, throw some oversized high compression pistons in it, and be ready to get back on the road with this thing.
What about the piston?
Piston, I think we're going to end up replacing it with high compression R90S piston anyways. We're going to leave the piston on the rod right now because we don't want to let the rod rest on the cylinder or the wall of the case. It can nick the rod and nick the case, creating an oil leak in a situation like that. So we're going to leave the piston right there because it's resting up against the rings on the cylinder studs, and we're going to move over to the next side.
Okay, well there you have it. We went ahead and took off the other side as well. We did it on fast forward so you didn't have to work it. That one, watch it, that one actually came off a lot easier than the other one did. So here they are, all apart.
All apart, right head, left head, couple air heads. Everything looks like it's in pretty good shape for the most part. Do a little cleanup, do a valve job on it. Like I said, like I mentioned before, we're probably gonna go with the high compression pistons. We're gonna overbore it to the first overbore, which gives us a little bit more power. These things stock had 60 horsepower. So the S model, which is the high compression pistons and a different cam, they got 67 horsepower. With a little bit of work, supposedly it's not very hard to get 75 horsepower out of these things. So we should be somewhere in the ballpark. So next episode of the motor is going to be putting it all back together.
All right, well thanks for watching. See you next episode. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification buttons, and we'll see you in the next episode of Two Airheads and a Boxer.
See you next time on Two Airheads and a Boxer. Da-na-now!